Good afternoon. I'm Malu Cristobal, and I'm your MC and moderator for this afternoon's GMM. Before we start with the program officially, let me just make a few announcements and do a bit of housekeeping. First, in behalf of the FINEX directors, I'd like to express our thanks to our year-round sponsors, our platinum sponsor, Philippine Shell Petroleum Corporation, our diamond sponsors, San Miguel Corporation, our gold sponsors, ABS-CBN Broadcasting Corporation, BDO Unibank, PNA Grant Thornton, and Stratcom. Our minor sponsors, National Grid Corporation, SAP, and Santa Lucia Land. Let me give our heartfelt gratitude to the sponsors for their valuable support. Second, I'd like to remind everybody about our upcoming FINEX activities. Our big event for the year, the 2020 FINEX Annual Conference, will be held from October 5 to October 9 with a very timely and relevant theme, the future of finance in a post-pandemic world. All of the sessions will be conducted virtually. We have an excellent lineup of speakers, both foreign and domestic. So please register if you have not done so yet. Let me reiterate our thanks to our conference sponsors, without whose help this activity would not be possible: Pilipinas Shell, ABS-CBN, San Miguel, BDO Unibank, PNA Grant Thornton, Stratcom, NGCP, SAP, and Santa Lucia. The Women in Finance Committee will hold a webinar entitled New Leadership in Times of Pandemic. This will be held on September 24 at 10 a.m. On October 13, also at 10 o'clock in the morning, the Financial Inclusion Committee, in partnership with the Women in Finance Committee, will have a webinar entitled Beyond Financial Inclusion, a focus on MFIs and financial inclusion of women. Both webinars will have foreign and domestic speakers. The Professional Development Committee and AYALA Corporation invite you to the second part of the AYALA-FINEX Finance Summit with the theme Reimagining the Future, Leading Through the Unknown. This will be held on September 23 from 10 in the morning to 11:30 in the morning. Speakers are Cesar Consing, President of PPI, and Oleg Timchenko, partner of Manila McKinsey & Company. We will have the much anticipated, the much awaited awarding of the 14th ING FINEX CFO of the Year on November 18. We will be shining the spotlight on the country's top finance head who is making a difference as a game-changing CFO. So please watch out for the flyers for all of these events for details, and so that you can then register appropriately. Third in my list of announcements, many of us watched and enjoyed the FINEX-sponsored concert on movie music featuring Jerfil Flores and other performers on August 19 last year. Those who missed it and those who will want to watch it again will be pleased to know that the full concert is now available for viewing through DVD and USB, and you can inquire from the Secretariat and on how to access these devices. Fourth, I'd like to call your attention on the FINEX Focus, our monthly publication, which is emailed to all members. For the latest edition, we have a new column entitled Lockdown Diaries. And the first article to come out under this column was written by Attorney Lia San Juan, an active member of the Arts Committee of FINEX Foundation, who wrote on the webinar sponsored by the Arts Committee entitled Art During the Time of Pandemics. Some of the pictures of art pieces which were featured during the webinar are flashed on the screen. Please watch out for the next editions of the FINEX Focus, which, as I mentioned, comes out once a month and is sent to the members via email. Fifth, we have a treat for all FINEX members. At the end of the GMM, we will be raffling off 5 grazing boards, two samples of which are featured and shown on screen. These are perfect for this time of lockdown. So please make sure to stay until the very end so that you can qualify for the raffle of, I will repeat, 5 grazing boards. Lastly, I would like to encourage everybody to participate in the open forum right after the speaker's presentation later in the program. And in this regard, we'd like to request you to please post your questions in the Q&A tab and not on the chat box below your screen. Time permitting, we will have our speakers to address all your questions later in the program. I think that's it for our announcements and our housekeeping chores. So once again, let me greet everybody a good afternoon and let me welcome you to the 8th GMM of FINEX for 2020. This is our 6th time to be on a virtual meeting. To formally open our program, may I call on our very able and very hardworking President, Jeng Pascual, to call the meeting to order. Jeng?
Thank you very much, Malu. Good afternoon, FINEX members and guests. I would like to call today's September 2020 FINEX General Membership Meeting to order.
Thank you, Jeng. I will call you back in later. But for now, let me call on a very active member of the Arts Committee, the lovely Jenny Yap, who will deliver the invocation and lead us in the singing of the national anthem. Jenny? Can we have Jenny on screen? Jenny, you're on mute.
Thank you, Malu. May I request everyone to join me in prayer and singing of the national anthem. Okay, Father God, all glory, honor, and blessing, all power and might, all praise and thanksgiving be to you, Abba Father, to us all. We stand on your word declaring that when we call upon you, you will answer us and be with us in distress. Our deliverer and healer, we seek your protection for our families and all of us from the scourge of COVID-19 and all manner of disease and affliction. We pray especially for our health workers who tirelessly perform their duties at great risk to themselves. We pray for all of us, co-workers in the business community, that we may perform our task with greater diligence in these difficult times. To serve each other and our country in solidarity and spirit of social responsibility. We pray for all those in authority in government and the private sector, that they may have all wisdom, competence, and strength to lead us and serve through this period of crisis, with special attention to our poor and disadvantaged brethren who are struggling to survive. We pray for reconciliation and peace among all Filipinos. As we become better to realize our oneness as people in good times and bad, as a common dread unites us. So in acknowledgement of our dependence on you and in obedience, we approach you, Father God, humble ourselves and pray, seek your presence and turn from our evil ways, that you may listen from heaven, forgive our sins and revive our land. In the loving name of your Son, Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Thank you very much, Jenny. Once again, may I call on our President, President Jeng, for his President's time.
Thank you again, Malu and Jenny. My dear fellow FINEX members, we celebrated National Heroes Day just over 2 weeks ago. What surprised me, though, is the fact that despite National Heroes Day and other public holidays commemorating renowned Filipino historical figures, we do not yet have any officially proclaimed national hero. We have a national anthem, a national tree, national flower, and even a national sport, but no national hero, notwithstanding whatever we were taught in school when we were kids. Why that is maybe a subject of a different discussion, but this peculiar fact just made me wonder about whether heroes are still relevant in present times. Wikipedia defines a hero as a person, real or fictional, who in the face of danger combats adversity through feats of ingenuity, courage, or strength. The word itself comes from the Greek word meaning protector or defender. We all know the various dangers we are facing in these uncertain times. The danger to personal health and well-being, the danger of economic collapse and social unrest, the danger of financial distress and bankruptcy, the danger to civil liberties and the rule of law, the danger of corruption and of being corrupted, the danger of fake news and trolls, and the danger of uncertainty itself. In light of these dangers and threats, it is therefore not very difficult to identify who we can call heroes. The healthcare workers who continue to combat the virus at the risk of their own lives, workers in essential industries that produce basic necessities, allowing us continued access to food, medicine, and energy. The public servants who faithfully safeguard the financial resilience and stability of our economy. Business leaders, organizations, and corporations that deploy resources and institute measures to save jobs and reinforce supply chains. Government institutions that step up to defend the rule of law and the Constitution, influencers and journalists who call out corruption, injustices, and inequities, the parents and teachers who push for quality education and instill objective truths in the minds of the Filipino youth, and the average Filipino wage earners who, in the face of all these adversities and uncertainties, are driven by their conviction and responsibility to provide for their families. Do you know who your heroes are? We are fortunate to have with us this afternoon a couple of influencers who express their heroism through artistry in entertainment and in the performing arts. I would like to welcome Mr. Bart Guingona, popular actor, director, and producer, calling in from Los Angeles. Or sorry, that was for Marc Anthony, sorry. And Mr. Marc Anthony Nicolas calling in from Los Angeles. He's a Filipino-American TV producer and a two-time Emmy Award winner. They will share with us their insights and perspectives on the role of entertainment in the new normal. I'm also so proud of FINEX because we have our very own everyday heroes. Our tireless committee chairs and members who continue to innovate and develop new ways of achieving their objectives and engaging the FINEX community. Our committed directors and trustees who actively deliberate and formulate strategies in pursuit of the continuing relevance of our organization. And of course, the Secretariat that had to adapt quickly to new ways of working during this pandemic to ensure all the plans and activities are delivered. And for the past month, these are our plans, and these were the plans and activities that happened. The August 2020 GMM last month on envisioning recovery through analytics, organized by the Programs and Meetings Committee, headed by Chair Nanette De Jesus, in partnership with the ICT Committee, led by Chair Ray Lugtu and Vice Chair Marc Boricheta. Active support and participation in the third GMM of FINEX Cebu, last August 20, where FINEX members Jet Pampolina and Val Bagatsing shared their insights on the topic from coping to taking control, building resilience when and where it matters. This involvement was organized by Caloy Cervantes and his affiliates committee. The co-signing of the JRI-led joint statement on 23 August, lauding the Supreme Court decision on warrantless searches and seizures as endorsed by the National Affairs Committee chaired by Eddie Yap. Successful implementation of the cloud-based accounting system QuickBooks Online by Mike Pinluan and the Secretariat that will enable a more efficient and timely period and financial close and review process for Phoenix. The first session of the three-part AYALA-FINEX Finance Summit on Reimagining the Future, Leading Through the Unknown, last September 9, featuring Mr. Jaime Augusto Zobel de Ayala, and Phoenix members Gemma Cheng, Ian Guevara, and Wilson Tan, and organized by the Professional Development Committee under Chair Ned Goseco. On other updates, as we heard earlier, the nomination period for the ING Phoenix CF of the Year ended last August 31, following a blitz of social media posts and ads throughout August. And the search committee is now busy completing the screening of candidates. I am sure all of you are excited to find out who our next game-changing CFO will be, so please mark the date November 18 in your diaries. Preparations are also ongoing for our Phoenix Week annual conference from October 5 to 9. It will definitely be an inspiring and insightful week on the future of finance in a post-pandemic world, with a number of global business and finance leaders providing very compelling perspectives of the future. Reserve your event access passes now. And most importantly, the 2020 elections process for the 2021-22 Board of Directors is underway. I encourage all of you to vote and to vote wisely for the team that will bring Phoenix up the next step towards achieving world-class in the new normal. Amidst all these various accomplishments and continuing programs, I am just saddened that Phoenix also lost one of its heroes. Our dear colleague, life member, and co-founder, Jaime Jimmy Ladao, joined our creator last August 24, 2020. His dedication and commitment to Phoenix in his various capacities and roles and continued active involvement spanning 53 years is unparalleled. His presence will be sorely missed by everyone who knew him. The present times continue to be laden with uncertainties, dangers, and threats, whether personal, social, economic, or political. As financial executives, our role as stewards requires us to remain vigilant towards protecting the physical, financial, and human resources of our organizations, defending the integrity of financial transactions and commercial deals being carried out in the business, and advocating for economic stability and growth. So, going back to my earlier reflection as to whether heroes are still relevant today, perhaps it is not really a matter of knowing one, but of being one. I hope you all continue to take care of yourselves and each other. Maraming salamat po at mabuhay ang Phoenix.
Thank you very much, Jeng, and I echo your thanks to our everyday heroes who in their own way make a difference in the lives of our fellow men. We will now proceed with the induction of our new members, and it's gratifying to note that despite the lockdown and the pandemic that we do get new members into the Institute. So I'll now call on the Membership Committee Chair, Kaloy Cervantes, to introduce the new members. And right after Kaloy, I'd like to call back in President Jeng to actually do the induction. Kaloy, the floor is yours.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. We will now induct a new member. Let me call on Miguel A. Fernandez. Miguel is a Group Chief Finance Officer of Paymaya Philippines, Inc. Host, can you turn on? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Could you turn on the video
Good
of
afternoon.
Mr. Fernandez?
Yes, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Can you see
to
me?
add solemnity to the occasion? Yes, we can hear you. So
And you
to
can
add
see me?
solemnity to the occasion, may I call on our President Jose Jerome Pascual for the oath of membership. Thank you.
Thank you, Kaloy, and welcome, Miguel. May I ask you to raise your right hand and repeat after me, please. I state your name.
I, Miguel Fernandez,
having been accepted as a member of the Financial Executives Institute of the Philippines,
having been accepted as a member of the Financial Executives Institute of the Philippines,
do hereby solemnly swear
do hereby solemnly swear
that I will faithfully discharge to the best of my ability
that I will faithfully discharge to the best of my ability
my duties and responsibilities in the pursuit of its goals and objectives,
my duties and responsibilities in the pursuit of its goals and objectives,
that I will protect and uphold its Constitution and bylaws,
that I will protect and uphold its Constitution and bylaws,
that I will abide by its code of ethics,
that I will abide by its code of ethics,
that I will observe the highest professional, moral, and ethical standards,
that I will observe the highest professional, moral, and ethical standards,
and that I voluntarily impose this obligation upon myself
and that I voluntarily impose this obligation upon myself
without mental reservation or purpose of evasion.
without mental reservation or purpose of evasion.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Miguel, and welcome to Phoenix.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Jeng. Thank you, Kaloy, and welcome, Miguel, to Phoenix. And we trust that you'll be an active participant in
I
the
will.
Phoenix activities. We hope to see more of you
Thank you.
virtually until the lockdown is over. Okay, welcome
Thank you.
and have a good stay with Phoenix. Oh, let me now move on to the next part of our program, which will be our guest speaker's presentation. But before that, I'd like to call on Domingo Go, Chairman of the Arts Committee of the Phoenix Foundation, to introduce our two speakers. Doming.
Good afternoon. Colleagues in Phoenix, friends, ladies and gentlemen. The arts, and in particular the entertainment industry, is so embedded in our lives that we sometimes take them for granted. And yet, when the world came to a standstill because of the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, we turned to news media to keep us informed, social media to keep us connected, and Netflix and other platforms to keep us entertained. It is therefore my privilege to introduce our speakers for this afternoon, who will enlighten us about the state of the entertainment industry, both in the local and international scenes during this time of the pandemic. In the interest of time, please allow me to introduce both our speakers. First, an introduction of our second speaker to be followed by my introduction of the first speaker. We have for our second speaker this afternoon a two-time Emmy Award-winning senior producer of The Talk at CBS in Los Angeles. In winning the Emmy, The Talk bested The Ellen DeGeneres Show, Kelly and Ryan, The Real, and The View. Born in the Philippines, our speaker moved to California at the age of 4. He had worked previously as a pharmacist assistant and also at a restaurant called the Olive Garden Restaurant. Subsequently, he started his career in the industry as a production assistant and was quickly promoted to a casting producer in 2005, where he excelled in casting reality shows and booked extensively for MTV networks. In 2009, he became the producer for the Emmy Award-winning talk show, The Tyra Banks Show, which made him relocate to New York. He then joined The Talk on CBS in Los Angeles in 2011, and the show is currently on season 10 and has a viewership of close to 3 million daily. In 2014, he turned talk show host via his lifestyle show, On Your Marc, which successfully launched on the Lifestyle Network. He has made history by being the first Filipino talk show host to interview Hollywood celebrities such as Olivia Newton-John and others. Currently, he is the main host for Inside Hollywood on the Manila App TV. In 2018, he was ranked #1 in the list of the 75 most influential Filipino Americans and was named in that same year one of the outstanding Filipinos in America at Carnegie Hall, New York. In the same year, he was also named TV Producer of the Year by the Filipino-American Press Club of California. In May of 2019, he was inducted into the Asian Hall of Fame, an event that honors Asian achievements in the industry. He thus joined the ranks of past Asian honorees such as Bruce Lee, Christy Yamaguchi, Connie Chung, Carrie Ann Inaba, and more. Friends and colleagues, we are therefore very honored to have with us straight from the United States, Mr. Marc Anthony Nicolas, to share with us later his views. For our first speaker, we have an artist who first thought of pursuing law at UP Diliman after finishing his degree in economics from the same university. However, after passing the entrance exam to law school, he decided to take a year off, and as fate would have it, during that period, he started to experience what earning was like and never looked back. Since then, he has had a distinguished career as a renowned theater artist, director, producer, political activist, and entrepreneur businessman. He was a winner of the 2003 and 2013 Aliu Awards for Best Stage Actor, the 2015 Gawad Buhay for Director, Best Actor, and Best Ensemble, the 2014 Gawad Buhay for Best Director and Best Actor. He is likewise an advocate for various causes as head of Pagbabago at Pilipinas Foundation. As a theater artist, he has directed and acted for most of Manila's major theater companies, including the highly acclaimed The Crucible for Repertory Philippines, Julius Caesar for Gantimpala Theater Foundation, Ang Kuripot for Tanghalang Pilipino, Lorca's Blood Wedding for Dramatis Personae, and Janet's The Maids for the Philippine Educational Theater Association, among others. He has fulfilled 2 theater grants in London, one of which was for theater direction, and at present he is the director and president of Actors Actor Inc. and artistic director of The Necessary Theater. Anchored on his philosophy that theater should encompass all ideas, however complex or simple, and that it should be data-driven, his choices of directorial material have been described as eclectic. Among others, he has appeared in and directed Larry Kramer's The Normal Heart, which won for him the Best Director Award in the 2016 Field Stage Gawad Buhay Awards. As a businessman, he heads Silang Communications, a company which has been in the business of conceptualizing, scripting, and directing a variety of shows and events for corporations and institutions such as the Pacific Economic Cooperation Council, APEC Conference in Hong Kong, as well as the National Press Club's Gridiron Nights for 14 years, among others. He has likewise appeared in numerous films, the latest of which is as Paulo, one of 3 illegal minors in Love Diaz's Lahi Hayop or Genus Pan, that won just last weekend the Best Director Award in the Horizonte or Horizons category of the Venice Film Festival, the world's oldest film festival, and where it competed with 18 other films in this category described as an international competition dedicated to films that represent the latest aesthetic and expressive trends in international cinemas. Praised by critics internationally, a German film magazine has described the film as a drama about whether humans can emancipate themselves from their dark urges. It is indeed, therefore, an honor and a privilege to have the very distinguished Mr. Bartolome Bart Guingona to share with us his views. Mr. Guingona, you now have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that introduction, Doming. That's long-winded, if I may say so myself. I mean, I'm not used to hearing all these things about myself, but you know, I have to say that I'm really grateful for this opportunity to talk to you about the arts, which need to be talked about now, especially the performance arts. It's in dire straits. It wasn't in great condition even before the pandemic started, but it's now facing existential threats. Let's start off with, in 2010, by the way, the copyright-based industries that includes literature and art and animation and design contributed 7.34% to the GDP. Unfortunately, very small of that was contributed by the performing arts or by cinema. So that was in 2010. That was the last survey. But it's been increasing, and we've had international exposure. However, pandemic, and we are in what we call now an existential crisis. Let's start off with the cinema. Okay, as of September 2020, only there's only one production that is in post-prod now. And I'm talking about mainstream, by the way, mainstream production. And this fantasy film was in development for 2 years. So it was being developed even before the pandemic happened. But because of the pandemic, the production costs have increased by at least 60% because of the health protocols and the shortened hours. By the way, even before the pandemic, costs of Eddie Garcia on set, the House of Representatives put up is proposing a House bill, the Eddie Garcia bill, it's called, for safety on set. The protocols call for shorter hours, call for senior citizens to sign waivers, and so on and so forth. There's a whole host of protocols that the Eddie Garcia bill is proposing to put in place. And this is also impacting on the cost of producing both television and cinematic productions. What used to be, for example, 18 hours shooting time has been reduced to 14 hours of 1 hour before and 1 hour after. So that brings it down to about 12 hours a day. Once you have 12 hours a day, then that means you're going to have more shooting days, which means that your cost of equipment rental from the production houses is going to push up your costs. You're going to have to pay your actors for more days. You're going to have to pay your staff for more days. So it's almost impossible to come up with a cinematic production now, especially since the cinema houses are shut down and everyone has to try to migrate to online platforms. Unfortunately, online platforms such as Netflix, which are international, have a whole basket of content that we have to compete with. And therefore, we can't sell our movies on Netflix for a workable profit. What is happening now is the small producers are now producing for online platforms that are local, such as I Want. So that seems to be the wave of the future. The other bright spot is that local productions, independent local productions, such as the film that I just came in, I just appeared in, are still possible because of co-productions with foreign production companies. So the film festival circuit still has an interest in independent Filipino films. So that's how dire the movie industry is at this point. For television, well, we know that television has been impacted by the closure of one of the biggest content producers in the country. And luckily, they had the foresight to start migrating a lot of their content online. the pandemic has also impacted the industry in ways that we didn't expect. For example, Ang Probinsyano, which is wildly successful, is still being produced, but it is now being produced for I Want. Thank God, ABS-CBN had the foresight to migrate all their entertainment content to an online platform. However, the sponsorship revenue is nowhere near what it used to be when it was on free TV. So that is still a big challenge. Locations are also wary about having and television locate in local areas, because obviously they're afraid of the virus. However, the upside is resorts are eager to host television productions. For example, I have been asked to be in a teleserie, and what they required of me is 3 weeks lock-in, which means that for 3 weeks I can't leave the resort. I'd have to stay there, and then we take a 2-week vacation, and then we're back for another 3 weeks, and so on and so forth, until the entire season is shot. But then again, as I was saying, the distribution is still the challenge. The silver lining there is as internet activity gets better, I have a feeling that that online entertainment is going to be, well, just more accessible, and hopefully, just hopefully, sponsorship will start migrating towards the online platforms such as YouTube and I Want and so on and so forth. Okay, the biggest victim of the pandemic are live events, performance arts, and that includes dance, music, theater, drama. Obviously, these things which have to happen live are now not, well, not possible to be held. So we are thinking that perhaps prognosis for this is that perhaps by 2021 mid, and we're being optimistic about that, mid 2021, some theaters might open with very strict health protocols and socially distant seating. But that is still, Oh, by the way, before I move forward, if you look in the chat, I'm going to ask a favor of all of you. There is a survey that we would like you to answer, care of Theater Fans Manila. It's to help us also decide when and how to open our theaters. The live events, and I'm talking about the music industry, the below the line promotions, product launches, anniversary presentations, whatever, are now doing what we call what's the word for it? Combined events, which means that, for example, the Century Tuna pageant, Super Bonds, is going to be filmed like there was an audience, but there's no audience, but with the full complement of lighting, of direction, and so on and so forth, and then it will be streamed online. So that's what we're trying to look at as an alternative, right? an alternative to what we used to do, which is live events. We don't know how that's going to affect other things, such as band concerts, such as weddings. I don't know what's going to happen, because weddings are now they're going to be held either virtually or they're going to be very small, open only to family and then streamed to guests. So those are some of the things that are being thought about. Okay, so okay, the live events, I have to say, by the way, in the last years before the pandemic, was a 15 billion peso industry. This year, it will be lucky to hit 500 million. So there is a lot of unemployment going on. There is a lot of worry about where we will go next. We are constantly trying to figure it out. By the way, it says the survey link doesn't work. I'm going to try and resend it later, so don't worry. I'll do it again. The form is it's no longer accepting responses. Never mind. I'll try to fix that later. Okay. That being said, even before the pandemic, I'd like to make a little pitch here. You know how important the arts are to this country. You know that we are here, entertainment, in order to, during the worst times, we are here to salve your wounds, to help you cope with the hard times, and so on and so forth. And I'd like to propose, or rather posit, that the Filipinos are among the most talented in the world. I mean, the next speaker, Marc, is living proof of that. You have Lea Salonga, you have all these people. As a matter of fact, anywhere you go in the world, you go to a cruise ship, you go to a bar in Africa, in Zimbabwe, in Latin America. In a hotel bar, you'll find Filipino artists everywhere. And yet, the are the ones who have actually been able to use their arts to conquer the world. Why? Because after the war, when they realized that they were not, it was going to be impossible for them to militarily, conquer the world, that they would do it through culture. So if you think Gangnam Style was an accident, or BTS was an accident, or K-pop, or the Korean movies, and last year's Best Picture at the Oscars were an accident, you need to think twice. It's because their state, their country, actively pushed the arts in order to conquer the world. We, among the most talented people on this earth, are not galvanizing an unrealized energy. That is the energy of our artists. We need to think about that. We need to push the arts. Oh, here's an example. Can you imagine, in every bar across the world, there is a Filipino band or a singer in a hotel? Can you imagine the power of having them before being given the license to perform abroad, having them memorize a 3-minute spiel about the Philippines? to do an English song or whatever language about the Philippines. Can you imagine how powerful that can be? And yet, here we are. The pandemic is a problem, but the larger problem is the way we look at our arts and our artists. Thank you. I think that's all I have to say this afternoon. I look forward to answering your questions. Thanks.
Thank you, Bart. We will try and put a more positive angle to the entertainment industry of the country later in the Q&A. But thank you for your very candid presentation. Let me now call on Marc Anthony Nicolas for his presentation, straight from California. Hi, Marc, the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you so much. How is everybody doing? My name is Marc Anthony Nicolas, and I was actually, this speech is gonna be a two-parter. The first part is gonna be an inspirational part with my life story of making it in the entertainment industry. And also the next part would be how COVID has affected many of us here today. So I was born in the Philippines. I come from humble beginning. My mother was born and raised in Pasig, and my father was born and raised in Sampaloc. So when I was born, they actually moved to America, left me all by myself with my Lola and Lolo in the Philippines, and I was there for 4 years. While I was in the Philippines for 4 years, my mom and dad was trying to make a life for themselves and for me in America, specifically in California. So my mom got a job as a banker at Bank of America, and my father was a truck driver here in Los Angeles as well. When they stabilized their life here in Los Angeles, they came back for me 4 years later and brought me to America. And honestly, it was like a whole new world. It was so different from the Philippines, but I did miss the Philippines as well. So I grew up with the dreams of working in the entertainment industry. I'm not sure how I made it or how I was gonna make it, but I knew some way, somehow, I knew I was gonna make it. At the age of 7, I was watching Brady Bunch, which was one of my favorite shows back in the day. And I told my mom, oh my God, Mom, who are those names after the show? And she's like, Marc, those are the people that actually work for the show. And those people are producers, production assistants, cameramen, makeup artists, and whatnot. And I told her, I distinctly remember, I was like, Mom, one day my name is gonna be in the credits of a talk show. And little did I know, I was actually manifesting at the age of 7, something so surreal, something that I wanted, and it did happen 20 years later. So I was working as a waiter in Olive Garden, and I'm not sure if you guys know, Olive Garden is an Italian restaurant, and I was there for 5 years, trying to make it in the entertainment industry. So I was working as a waiter, getting tips, and that was actually paying for my college tuition for getting in the entertainment industry. So I sent my resume out to CBS, ABC, NBC, and all the time I was sending my resume, it was always no, no, no. And every time it was a no, I began to question myself, like, is this the life for me? Because every time I heard a no, my heart honestly was so heartbroken, but I knew I had to never give up. So my coworker, Lindsay, actually quit Olive Garden, and she said, hey, Marc, I'm quitting. And I'm like, Lindsay, let me know if there's a production assistant job opening. So rule number 1, always use your voice. God gave you a voice, because if I didn't ask Lindsay to think of me, I would have never gotten my foot in the door in the entertainment industry. So 2 weeks later, I get a phone call. She's like, Mark, it's Lindsay. And I'm like, hey, Lindsay. She's like, there's a production assistant job that's opening. It pays little money whatsoever. It's $4.25 an hour, but you'll get your foot in the industry. So I knew I had to do it. I quit being a waiter and I worked for a production assistant job. That was like getting coffee, driving around the producers, and basically the grunt work of every television show. That show ended and one of the producers was like, Mark, like I totally remember your energy and your charisma. And that's rule number 2. Always be excited, always have that passion. And if you want to do something, whether it be in the medical field or the entertainment industry, you got to stand out from the crowd. So that's rule number 2. So I stood out from the crowd because I made friends with everybody and the producers actually remembered who I was. Then I was a casting associate for MTV Networks. I got promoted to a casting producer in a little over a year. And after that, I was casting reality shows and I was casting real life game shows as well. So after that, I get a call from the Tyra Banks show and they're like, hey, is Marc Anthony Nicolas there? And I'm like, yeah, this is him. And then they're like, oh, Mark, this is the Tyra Banks show. And I'm like, yes, can I help you? They're like, Tyra Banks actually wants to interview you because there's a producer job opening. And that's when the step number 3, rule number 3 is always take a chance, always take risks in life and in your career and anywhere you go. So I got an interview with the Tyra Banks show, and honestly, I took the job. It was in Los Angeles, and then it moved to New York City. I left my family behind, I left my friends behind, and I created a job in New York City working on the Tyra Banks show. And honestly, she is so amazing. She taught me my work ethics on the talk show world. She taught me how to produce celebrities. She gave me the knowledge and the power to make it in the talk show world. But sadly, being in the in the Tyra Banks show for 3 years, I get an unexpected call from my sister, who was in Los Angeles, and she's like, Mark, and I'm like, yeah. I have to tell you, Mom has stage 4 breast cancer, and she's in hospice. So honestly, it actually made me think, am I gonna stay on the Tyra Banks show and live my fullest dreams and live my life to the fullest, or go back to my mother who has raised me, given everything I have, and stop my career and go back to Los Angeles? So of course, I did what I had to do, and I told Tyra and the executive producers that I had to quit the show. So I quit the show, and I flew back to California, and the day I honestly landed, I went straight to my childhood home, and my mom was there in her bed. She was on morphine, and every time I tell this story, I honestly get teary-eyed because I do miss her. This happened 10 years ago. And so I saw her take her last breath, and she was like, thank you for coming, and I love you. So when she died, a part of me died too. And a mother's love will never die. And now I became a son with only one parent, and I promised her that I'll do my very best to help my dad and help my sister and just to make her proud. So I fell into depression a few months later, and after the 5th month, the talk on CBS actually gave me an interview, and I was hired. So basically, I was hired as the last producer on the show. And just to let you know, I am the only Filipino on the talk on CBS with an employee of 200 people. So basically, I'm the only Filipino out of 200 people. So that's 1 in 200 people in the show working there. And I'm so proud and so humbled to share my knowledge of the Philippines, whether it be telling the history of the Philippines to Sharon Osbourne, or whether it bring pancit or lumpia to the other hosts as well, because I think it's my job and my responsibility to share what the Philippines is like and what the Philippines has to offer. So I've been there for 10 years, and I'm proud to say we're going on season 11 next Monday, and I've been with the talk for 11 years. I have won 2 Emmys for Outstanding Talk Show. We've beat Ellen DeGeneres, we've beat Ryan Seacrest, also The Real, The View, Wendy Williams, and I'm so proud not only as a senior producer, but I'm also proud as a senior producer who is Filipino as well. I've also been inducted to the Asian Hall of Fame last year, and that's so exciting because the Asian Hall of Fame has inducted in the past Bruce Lee, who is an amazing Asian artist. Also, Kariana Naba, who's a judge with Dancing with the Stars. And also who's been inducted is Cheryl Burke and also myself. So there's probably 25 people that have been inducted to the Asian Hall of Fame. So my last part of this speech is how COVID and the pandemic has affected the entertainment industry. Honestly, we were all furloughed in March of this year, and we honestly didn't know what was happening. Talk shows were shut down, like The Talk. Ellen was shut down, and all the other major talk shows. There's about 500 talk shows, reality shows, game shows, and other media platforms that have been shut down. Because of this pandemic, it is hard to be working from home as well. It is hard because I'm usually on set. Makeup artists have lost their jobs. Also, cameramen have lost their jobs as well. And also people working in back of the camera. So what I wanna say is just because there is a pandemic out there doesn't mean it's gonna hinder us from our daily lives at all. I know virtually that it can be hard, it can be tough, it can be rough, but we are still working together virtually, and we may be apart from one another. It may be a mile away or 1,000 miles away, but I will reassure you, whether it be next month or next year, things will be back to normal again. And as the only Filipino senior producer on the talk who has won 2 Emmys, we will get through this pandemic together. This COVID-19 has not weakened us. It has only made us stronger. So mabuhay to everyone, and salamat. I thank you for everything. And if you have any questions, just let me know. And I'm more than happy to help the Filipino community as well as the entertainment industry as well. So mabuhay and thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Let me call Bart back in so that we can have a conversation. Thank you both for your candor and for giving us a snapshot of where the industry is and what the industry is grappling with the pandemic. Mark, let me just pose a question to you. As a result of the pandemic and the lockdown across the world in various severity and length, I think the Philippines has had the longest lockdown compared to other countries. And this has made people more housebound, and as a consequence, they consume more entertainment now more than ever. But on the other hand, the pandemic and the safety protocols are being adopted, physical distancing, etc., are, I guess, creating obstacles to being able to produce new content, new shows. So how do you reconcile and address the mismatch between the demand for new shows and the seeming dearth of supply of new shows. How do you address this paradox? Mark?
Is it towards me?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
Maybe I can
perfect.
get
Well,
Bart also to step in later. Go ahead.
Of course, of course. Well, I have friends in a lot of television shows, reality shows, and game shows as well. Just to let you know, our ratings have dropped in the millions. So basically, with this pandemic, the talk did reach 3 million viewers, and now we have lost 500,000 viewers because of this pandemic. We have been doing shows through Zoom, but it is not as exciting, or it's not as interactive, or you don't have that connection as if you were on set. So people gravitate towards the touch, the feeling, the banter with the host as well. Because with these squares that you see on the television screen, it is, we do have a loss of having a personal conversation with each other. And I'm not surprised that we have dropped very, very much with our viewership, not only on the talk, but with other talk shows as well. It is sad to say that being on lockdown and shooting with Zoom on our talk shows, it is actually hindering us for the moment as well. But just to let you know, on the talk, we are starting to go on set. Every talk show, every show like the Ryan Seacrest show and the talk, we do have social distancing, which is 6 to 8 feet from each other. So instead of being 6 inches from each other, now it's 6 feet from each other. We actually can't foresee how that is going to affect our ratings whatsoever, but we're going to try different ways. And if this 6 feet social distancing doesn't actually help us on stage, we will try our best to get those viewers back, whether in any way, shape, or form.
Bart, can you have any thoughts you want to share with us on this?
Yes, the disparity between the supply and the demand is simple. Although there's a big demand, there is a very little supply because the revenues have not fallen into the online platforms yet. So it's very hard to produce something exclusively for online when there are not too many sponsors, and you have a lot, and I mean a lot, of content that's for free. So you are competing, say, with YouTube, with all the others, with Vimeo and all the other platforms that are, not to mention the pirated,
yes.
So
the boom and the bane of technology.
Yes. So it's, I mean, if I were a producer, I mean, I'd be a bit nuts. Want to produce for the online thing. As a matter of fact, our movie, for example, after we did it in Venice, they released it very, very narrowly to a geo location only, because they were afraid the moment you put it online, the chances for piracy is really large.
Yes.
So that's where.
And I guess once it's out there, it's like you can't put the genie back in the bottle.
Yes. Once it gets pirated once, you're dead. You're absolutely right. It's like putting toothpaste back in the tube.
Yes. So there is really the paradox of having much more viewership online, but not the economic side, because you don't get the revenues corresponding to the viewership.
Yes. So it's still revenues.
Yes. And we're not there. We're not anywhere near getting the revenue stream to improve the economics of this whole
not anywhere
scenario.
Not anywhere near yet.
Bart, you're a theater actor, and let me just pose this question to you, because we know that actors, particularly theater actors, thrive on audience interaction. I mean, in theater, you You want to hear the audience applause. You want to hear them laugh. You want to see them weep. You want to see them react. It's like caffeine or sugar rush. But this pandemic isolates you.
Yes.
So how do you resolve this paradox? I mean, assuming that this pandemic is going to happen for so many months yet and you have to live with it. So how do you address it?
I mean, the performing arts is predicated on live performances. You can't escape from that. It's the very definition. So we're really in a big conundrum. We don't know when things are going to open, if they can even open realistically. And, you know, there are some people who are experimenting. That's why I was saying, I was asking, can you please answer the survey? Because the survey actually asks you, are you willing to go? Because even if you open and people are still not willing to go, for example.
It's a confidence.
Yes.
Situation.
For example, they opened just last week, I think, what they thought was going to be a big summer tent production, which was Tenet, the new movie by Christopher Nolan. And they thought that, okay, this is going to draw the people back in. Unfortunately, it didn't. So the cost of that particular movie, which was about $250 million, only made domestically in the United States 20 million. So, and then worldwide it made 200. So talo pa siya ng 5 million.
Yes.
Wala pa doon yung ano, yung promotions, yung ano. So it was a very good test water production to see how people are going to respond. And obviously we know that
they're not
people
ready.
are not going to go. Cine pa yan, ha? Cine. That's not even
Yes.
in the theater when you're there, you know, and you're projecting. My God, the saliva that comes out of your mouth. It's
true.
the first row, right? It's the first row.
Okay, I'm getting a long list of questions, but let me just ask my one question that I've been meaning to as a follow through to your point about the Korean government support to Korean and the Korean entertainment industry. Put aside that government support. Why do Korean dramas and Korean musicians, why did they get mainstreamed? We have not.
Okay, let me tell you. Very interestingly, you will see this in Netflix. There is a series called Explained, and there is one episode on K-pop, and it will show you exactly what they did. Just put it this way. Cinema in this country, one of the things that we are trying to do is to lure foreign productions to film here, right? We want them because that has big implications for the hospitality industry, for tourism, for
the high multiplier effect.
It has a great multiplier effect. However, our government, instead of luring them with incentives, there is a $10 million cap on the incentives, and therefore we were able to attract in the last year, without the pandemic, we were able to attract 7 productions to come here. Guess what? Thailand attracted 743 last year because there's no cap to their incentives. So that's a government thing. I mean, then you need to get the buy-in of the government to look at the arts as a potential financial behemoth. I mean, it's possible. By the way, just the reason why K-pop and K-dramas are so slick is because the government deliberately poured money into them in the beginning. Poured money into them until they became, the K-pop groups, parang ano yan parang production line. if you look at them, they're so slick, you know, because money has been poured into it, and then they've been able to market it so so generously around the world. I mean, Parasite, the movie that won last year, that was not possible without the Korean producers getting incentives from their government.
But Bart, you
Yeah.
probably can get champions in Congress because there are a lot of movie actors and actresses in
May
Congress.
Malu, we have been trying for years to get champions. It's like pulling teeth. I promise you. It's really like we are always the last. We are always looked upon as the last priority because
The non-essential.
because we are thought of as non-essential. We are
Yes.
thought of as. By the way, one of the things we have to fight against is that you know, it's an industry that is identified a lot with the former first lady, you know. So it's looked upon as frivolous, and you know, and yeah, and so it's not being taken seriously, unfortunately.
You just have to try harder.
Yes, I mean,
Yes.
yeah, until all my teeth get pulled out, I guess.
True. Let me now go over the questions. They're getting longer. Just give me a few seconds to check this out. Okay. I think this is for Marc. Marc, are you there? Did we lose Marc?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm here.
Here's a question from Popo Suanes. Are there opportunities for Filipinos here with related skills to do outsourced work from Hollywood? Are there solid or purpose actions to tap these opportunities? Outsourcing, maybe some work in Hollywood that you can outsource from here because we can do it cheaper, better.
Is this regarding to get into the entertainment industry as a Filipino in Hollywood?
More like work opportunities, maybe certain work that is done in Hollywood in support of certain production that can be done here. I don't know whether it could be research or some support service that can be offshored or outsourced because it's not necessary to do it in Hollywood in support of Hollywood production. Can you think of work opportunities that you can farm out here in the Philippines?
Yeah, well, it's hard because usually like working in Hollywood, you have to live in Hollywood. So I always use like if I have job opportunities or I know of job opportunities, I always go to this website called Staff Me Up. So basically that's where all the Hollywood networks and game shows and reality shows, they actually see all the resumes, and there's like thousands of resumes over there. And then I, as a senior producer, will look at the resumes and I will hire them based on their skills.
It will have to be there.
Yes,
They will have to be there. Okay, so that means you don't see opportunities for outsourcing it and having it done here. There's another question for you, Marc. It says, when Crazy Rich Asians was shown, there were lots of talk that Hollywood does not have Asian content. Do you see this changing? Did Crazy Rich Asians sort of open the door for more Asian content, Asian-based content? As far as movies
after
are
Crazy
concerned.
Rich Asians, and just to let you guys know that me and John Chu, who is the director of Crazy Rich Asians, and I love him so much, we were actually inducted to the Asian Hall of Fame last year. So he's really nice and really cool. So when he actually directed Crazy Rich Asians and when that movie came out, it was just like fireworks, because here you see an Asian all-cast group in the movie theaters. And actually that opened the eyes of Hollywood that Asians do have talent. They have the look, they have the skill set to actually make billions and billions of dollars, not only the movie theater, but also in the television industry as well. Also, I work with Carrie Ann Inaba, who is with Dancing with the Stars and also a talk show host of The Talk. So there's another Asian out there. I, as a senior producer, also book Asians to be on The Talk, and I feel like that's my responsibility. I know it's not a prerequisite, but I always want our culture, not only Filipinos, but also Asians as well. So I have booked Jo Koy on the show, Venus Raj, who was Miss Philippines. She was audience member on The Talk. We had Dr. Tess Mauricio, who's a Filipino dermatologist, Mrs. O, Quido, also as well a Filipino dermatologist who was featured on The Talk. So as a producer, I always want the Asian community to actually have that spotlight. Usually it's always like African Americans or Caucasians out there, but I feel like since the Crazy Rich Asians, now it is the time for us to shine, because what I want to do is do an all-cast television series, maybe a sitcom or a soap opera. So that's in the works for me. I'm not sure how it's going to be done, but I'm envisioning in the next 2 years, I will be the executive producer of an all-Asian cast in television. So whether it be CBS, ABC, or another American Hollywood network, I foresee myself as an executive producer who will create this Asian popular show, and it will be probably the first Asian television shows to be created. And just give me a few years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Something to look forward to. There's a question for Bart from Edith D. Chow. Many Filipinos who are your followers are not used to seeing you online and feel unfair that they should pay you. You, I guess, as an actor, not necessarily just you, Bart. What do you think?
No, that's precisely it. You know, there was a question here by Popo Suanes. He was saying, you know, maybe you should move online, and you know, the people should start giving concerts and performances. You know, apart from very few performers, I'd say, you know, say, what's her name? Not Carrie Underwood. Whatever her name is. The other, you know, Lady Gaga or whoever. Very few are actually willing to shell out money for people beyond a select number of artists. So that's really, and then you have to compete, like I say, with a lot of content out there. A lot of it is junk, obviously, but you know, I mean, how are you going to convince people, hey, give me 500 pesos and I promise you, you'll have a, you know, you'll have your money's worth. It's very hard to, you know, to convince people without having them see what they're getting beforehand, right? So it is a difficult situation, obviously.
Let me do a follow-up question there, Bart. The entertainment industry is provides, you know, traditional vehicles for storytelling.
Yes.
Because entertainment is storytelling.
Yes.
Whether it's movies or TV drama or theater plays. In the new normal, post-pandemic, do you see other innovative ways of telling stories in this industry?
You know, one of the things that I saw recently, which I love, by the way, was the New York Public Theater came out with a play that was written expressly for Zoom, and it's about a family that couldn't see each other personally, and they had a conversation on Zoom. One of them was self-quarantining in another room, and they had this wonderful conversation, and you know, all their conflicts come out and all these things.
Yeah.
And I mean, you know, things like that, but how many times can you write a play for Zoom, right? I mean, after a while, it's going to be so boring. Or rethink, for example, I was thinking of doing, because people have now nominated Boy Noriega. I don't know if you know him. He wrote a play
Yes,
called
yes,
Bayang Bayanan
yes,
years and
yes.
years ago. And someone has asked me, do you want to stage it? And I said, you know what? I want to stage it for Zoom, you know, for this time now in this pandemic, you know, and have them as a series of Zoom conversations. And I'm thinking, yeah, let's rethink that. But again, you know, you actually kill the power of live theater by not making it live. So, you know, um, so it's really a wait and see for us anyway.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Here's a question for Mark from Edith Dichow. Mark, hello, Mark.
Yes.
There. Here's a question for you. Is Hollywood active regarding TV shows or movies? It seems the Korean entertainment industry is still active. I guess the question is under this current condition. One of the famous actors, Hyun Bin, went to the Middle East. He's the crush ng bayan, si Hyun Bin. Went to the Middle East to shoot his TV series. Another actor is finishing his new TV series and more are announcing new projects. So is Hollywood, has Hollywood gotten its bearings back? Is it much more active now than when the pandemic started in March? Do you see so much more activity? I think what he's saying here is that insofar as, for example, the Korean industry, they've gone back into doing, you know, production, but have moved to various locale where I guess they could do their production better or safer.
Yeah. Well, in the Hollywood industry, speaking with television, it is hard for a television to not shoot in a studio. So unfortunately, we cannot travel to other states that have opened the doors slightly. So television shows like Ellen or The Talk that are housed in a studio or set not go outside of their remainings. So we have to follow certain protocols, no audience members. We had 200 employees. Now we dumped it out to 50 employees as well. So unfortunately, Hollywood, it hasn't opened up like 100%, but hopefully in time in 2021, it will. But from speaking of my personal standpoint, I don't think it's going to open up anytime soon because I feel like if you're shooting on locations, that's strictly for movies. And from my expertise, it's television and talk shows and news stations. So those are that's going to be more affected than those that shoot in locations such as movies.
So movies.
Anywhere anywhere
there's more
that does
flexibility.
not have a set or a studio, they
flexibility.
have a better chance to actually shoot versus a studio like Ellen DeGeneres or The Talk, where we have to shoot in a studio.
Bart, with I guess with the problems of the industry, particularly under a lockdown and with the pandemic, thousands of performers and workers in support services have lost their jobs, their livelihood. Have there been programs for upskilling or cross-skilling this dislocated members of the industry?
You know, after ABS-CBN was axed summarily by the House of Representatives, obviously, they lost about 11,000, 13,000, workers, and the result of that was the actors got together and put up an organization called Actor, AKTOR, where people are supporting each other. They, for example, put up an Actor Tindahan, of which I am a member. I bake, so I'm now selling cakes, things like that. But the others are doing, they're doing their home thing. They're, and so there's going to be a co-op online for actors selling stuff. I mean, it's not our, it's a necessary evil, I guess. And then a lot of the workers, we are trying to hire them as, for example, Ding Dong Dantes put up a delivery service where he has hired stuntmen, gaffers, production people to do deliveries. So yeah.
Yes,
So
yes,
we are
yes.
trying our best to absorb them, but the economy is such that, well, we know that this is going to be, once we get the full economic impact of this pandemic, it's going to be very painful, right? So at this point, it's our industry is just really trying to and hope that's all we can do at this point.
Um, the lights have dimmed in the entertainment industry, and at some point they would lit back. I mean, they lit light back.
Hopefully.
But which of the segments of the industry will bounce back fastest? And are there segments that might have been mortally wounded or critically wounded, and it would take so much longer, if at all, for them to be resuscitated?
The one with the biggest hope is television. Buti na lang, ABS-CBN.
As in free, not cable, not, you're talking about free TV.
Free TV, no? But also, ABS-CBN has, because they have the I Want platform. So they are still continuing to produce a lot of online content. And surprisingly, they're getting views by the millions. So hopefully the sponsors start going in there as well. But
it's probably, may I just interject? It's probably a different demographic.
Yes. Okay. Probably it's probably, first of all, you need a computer or a device, but they even had that, they had the TV Plus Go that you stick into your another, so that's still, I mean, they had the foresight to do that. So it's a different demographic, but the good thing is it can only improve our internet services, get cheaper and improve over time, which I think will happen. So when that happens, then it can start competing with the local broadcasting free TV. So that's the big one. Cinema, live, everything's up in the air. We don't know.
But is it correct to say that the movies were already struggling even before the pandemic?
They were already struggling. Before the pandemic, in the heyday, there used to be 200 films produced a year. As of 2019, it was something like 19. And now it's 0. I mean, there's one that may come out. We don't even know. The other industry that is still very promising, music industry, pop music, because like I just did an MTV for a Ben and Ben song, and it's still reaching a lot of ears. It's still on Spotify. It still gets a lot.
Are you able to monetize that?
Only through Spotify, only through, they're able to monetize it, not as much as they want. But for example, Ben and Ben is their entire album is being sold on Apple. It's also being sold on so they are able to monetize, although it's still not optimized for real monetization. But it's still doing okay, in the sense that it still gets a lot of audience. It gets an audience. But the
I will
rest,
need to read.
yeah.
There are some comments that I need to read before we're running a bit short of time. Let me see what it says here. Okay. Oh, this is actually a question, but it might have been already answered. From Ernie Albano, Bart, has the entertainment sector made presentations to Congress about your plight? I can imagine several of the legislators are sympathetic to your cause because several of them are from your sector, etc.
Yeah, we've been doing it for years. Even during the time of, believe it or not, during the time of and on to Pinoy's time, and then this time, we haven't stopped trying to get a unified arts and culture policy that will push the arts agenda to make it a globally competitive industry.
There's this entity that Liza Dino heads.
Yeah,
Isn't that supposed to promote the interests of the industry?
That's the FDCP. The FDCP has two things. One is to try to get foreign productions to come in here, film in here, so that they hire Pinoy workers, they hire Pinoy technical people, the caterers, the resorts, and so on and so forth. But like I said, that's the window for now. The other thing that they're supposed to do is to provide incentives to movies that are competitive, that are produced and can compete with the foreign market. Unfortunately, it's not quite enough. So it's a very little pot for a very, very large market of of producers. So that's the problem there. Again, if we look at France, if we look at Korea, if we look at Australia, those people who protected themselves against Hollywood by really having protectionist measures to protect their their own local industries, they're the ones that have been able to conquer the world. So we need measures that way.
Okay, here's a comment and a question for Marc from Raquel Nakayama. Mr. Nicolas, very grateful for making us proud. You are an excellent representative of our country. Now, Netflix, is it a platform that Filipino producers can tap into?
Yes, definitely. I have a lot of Filipino friends who are producers or associate producers or even production assistants that work in Netflix. And I know Netflix and other streaming media is popular nowadays because of pandemic and the COVID that's happening. I feel there's a boost and a surge with these streaming websites since the pandemic, and they are actually beating movie theaters as well. Movie theaters have lost almost $5 billion in sales and in revenues. So Netflix is now booming along with Hulu and other media streaming outlets. But yes, there is room for growth for Filipinos and basically just break into the industry starting out as a production assistant, just like I did, and then just move
working your way up
as a Filipino. Yes.
Okay, we have a number of questions still, but we don't have time anymore. So let me take the opportunity to thank you both. We realize that this industry is facing a lot of challenges, but with you both looking at the problems and doing your share in trying to navigate through this period of uncertainty, that industry will be able to adapt and adapt well.
Yes.
So thank you, Marc Anthony, Nicolas, thank you, Bart Guingona, for sharing your time with us and for the candor that you've had in the open forum. And we hope we can have you again at some future time. Thank you.
Thank you.
We will now move on to the next part of our program. The Arts Committee, in partnership with the Programs Committee, decided to put a spice to the program by having certain entertainers, artists, render certain numbers for us. And these are artists from the L.O.V.E Project. Now, before they do their numbers, I'd like to call on Mencho, Laucha, and Koyulo to give us a very brief background on the L.O.V.E Project. Mencho?
Good afternoon, and thank you for the invitation. Someone once said that music is life, that's why our hearts have beats. One of the hardest hit by COVID-19 is the performing arts industry, an industry that is suddenly categorized as high risk due to the nature of the craft. Overnight, our world had turned upside down and the artists saw no silver lining. We knew something had to be done. We knew that during times like these, music can heal the heart and soul. Music is power and music is love. From that tiny flame of a thought, the L.O.V.E Project was born. The L.O.V.E Project stands for Live, On Request, Virtual Entertainment, using technology to continue to keep the industry alive and help performers continue to earn a living. By supporting the L.O.V.E Project, you not only help the artists make money, but you can also use the platform to reconnect with family and friends from all over the world. People are social animals, Filipinos in particular. And connection, even if done virtually, is so important, especially during a pandemic, where basically travel and personal gatherings are limited and in some cases prohibited. By sending a message of love, you not only support the artists, but you keep the fire of friendship and family alive. With the L.O.V.E Project, you can hire any of our roster of talents listed on our FB page. They can perform specially for you at your convenience, a variety of music like pop, ballads, theater, OPM, and so much more. Simply book them through their art cards. But the L.O.V.E Project is not limited to personal messages and performances. You may find the L.O.V.E Project particularly appealing and convenient if you need entertainment for your various corporate social responsibilities. The L.O.V.E Project can even conceptualize a theme performance to suit any occasion or purpose. We can do themes like A Night at the Theater, Songs Through the Decades, and Christmas shows gearing up for the holidays. Here to give you an example are some of the artists of the L.O.V.E Project, starting with Jasmine Fitzgerald.
Don't tell me not to lift your sun butter. Life's candy and the sun's a ball of butter. Don't bring around a cloud to rain on my parade. Don't tell me not to fly, I've simply got to. If someone takes a spill, it's me, not you. Who told you you're allowed to rain on my parade? I'll march my band out, I'll beat my drum. And if I'm fanned out, your turn at bat, sir. At least I didn't fake it, hot, sir. I guess I didn't make it, but whether I'm the rose of sheer perfection or freckle on the nose of life's complexion, a cinder or a shining apple of its eye, I gotta try once, I gotta fly once, only can die once, right, sir? Oh, life is juicy, juicy and easy. I gotta have my bite, sir. Get ready for me, love, cause I'm a comer. I've simply gotta march my heart to drummer. Don't bring around a cloud to rain on my parade. I'm gonna live and live now. Get what I want, I know how. One throw for the whole shebang. One throw that bear will go clang. I own the target and didn't think it answered. I guess I didn't make it. Get ready for me, love, cause I'm a comer. I've simply gotta march my heart to drummer. Nobody, no, nobody is gonna rain on my Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jasmine Fitzgerald, and you are currently witnessing the L.O.V.E Project. Sit back, relax, as we take you on this musical journey. On my own, pretending he's beside me. All alone, I walk with him till morning. Without him, I feel his arms around me, but when I lose my way, I close my eyes and he is not me. In the rain, the pavement shines like silver. Our lives are misty and the river. In the darkness, the trees are full of starlight, and all I see is him and me, forever and forever. And I know it's only in my mind that I'm talking to myself and not to him. And although I know that he is blind, still I say it's a waste. I love him, but when the night is over, he is gone. A river's just a river. Without him, the world around me changes. The trees are barren everywhere. The streets are full of strangers. I love him, but every day I'm learning. Oh, my love, I've only been pretending. Without me, his world would go on turning. A world that's full of happiness that I have never known. I love him. I love him. I love him. But only on my own. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome on stage, John.
When you can dance, every dance with the guy who gives you the eye, let him hold you tight. You can smile with a smile for the man who held your hand beneath the pale moonlight. But don't forget who's taking you home, or in whose arms you're gonna be. So darling, save the last dance for me. Oh, I know that the music's fine, like a sparkling wine. Go and have your fun, laugh and sing, but while we're apart, don't give your heart to anyone. And don't forget who's taking you home, or in whose arms you're gonna be. So darling, save the last dance for me. Baby, don't you know I love you so? Can't you feel it when we touch? I will never ever let you go. I love you oh so much. Well, you can dance and go and carry on till the night is gone and it's time to go. If he asks if you're all alone, can he walk you home? You must tell him no. And don't forget who's taking you home, or in his arms you're gonna be. So baby, save the last dance for me. Pa-pa-pa-pa-ya, 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 pa-pa-pa-pa-ya. Oh, I know that the music's fine, like a sparkling wine. Go and have your fun, laugh and sing. But when we're apart, don't give your heart to anyone. And don't forget who's taking you home, or in his arms you're gonna be. So darling, save the last dance for me. And don't forget who's taking you home, or in his arms you're gonna be. So darling, save the last dance for me. Oh baby, won't you save the last dance for me? Hey, you made a promise that you'll save the last dance for me. Save the last dance, the very last dance for me. And now please welcome Miss Melissa Reyes.
Pagmasdan ang ulan, unti-unting pumapata sa mga halaman at mga bulaklak. Pagmasdan ang dilim, unti-unting bumabalo sa buong paligid tuwing umuulan. Kasabay ng ulan, bumubuhos ang iyong ganda, kasabay ng hangin kumakanta. Maari bang huwag ka na sa piling ko'y lumisan pa, hanggang ang hangin ulay tumila na. Buhos na ulan, aking mundo'y lunuring tuluyan. Tulad ng pag-agos mo, di mapipigil ang puso ko. Nagliliyap, pag-ibig ko'y umaapaw, damdamin ko'y humiyaw sa tuwa. Tuwing umuulan at kapiling ka, pagmasdan ang ulan, unti-unting tumitila, ikaw rin magpapaalam na. Maari bang minsan pa mahagkan ka't maituyan pa, sa tubig at ulan lamang ang saksi. Minsan pa ulan, bumuhos ka, wag nang tumigil pa. Hatid mo may bagyo, dalangin ito ng puso ko. Sumasamo, pag-ibig ko'y umaapaw, damdamin ko'y humihiyaw sa tuwa. minsan pa mahagkat maiduyan pa sa tubig at ulan lamang ang saksi. Buhos na ulan aking mundo'y lunuring tuluyan. Tulad ng pag-agos mo, di mapipigil ang puso kong nagliliyap. Pag-ibig ko'y umaapaw, damdamin ko'y humihiyaw sa tuwa. Tuwing umuulan at kapiling ka, minsan pa ulan bumuhos ka, huwag nang tumigil pa. Hatid mo may bagyo, dalangin ito ng puso kong sumasamo. Pag-ibig ko'y umaapaw, damdamin ko'y humihiyaw sa tuwa. Tuwing umuulan at kapiling ka, kapiling ka. You are sunlight and high moon, joined by the gods of fortune, midnight and high noon, sharing the sky. We have been blessed, you and I.
You are here like a mystery. I'm from a world that's so different from all that you are. How in the light of one night did we come so far?
Outside, day starts to dawn.
Your moon still floats on high.
The birds away,
The stars shine too.
my hands still shake.
I reach for you,
And we meet in the sky. You are sunlight, and I would join here,
right in the sky with the flame of love made of sunlight, moonlight. beses na kitang nilayasan, iniwanan at ibang pinuntahan. Parang babaeng ang hirap talagang malimutan. Ikaw lamang ang aking laging binabalikan. Manila, I keep coming back to Manila. Simply no place like Manila. Manila, I'm coming home. I walk the streets of San Francisco. I've tried the rides in Disneyland. Dated a million girls in Sydney. Somehow I feel like I don't belong. Hinahanap, hanap kita Manila. Ang ingay mong sarap sa tenga. Mga jeepney mong nagliliparan. Mga babae mong nagagandahan. Take me back in your arms, Manila. Promise me you'll never let go. Promise me you'll never let go. Manila, Manila, I keep coming back to Manila. Simply no place like Manila. Manila, I'm coming home. I know everybody's on mute right now, but I know you all know this song. Feel free to sing along at the comfort of your own homes. Somehow I feel like I don't belong. Hinahanap, hanap kita Manila. Ang ligay mong sarap sa tenga. Mga jeepney mong nagliliparan. Mga babae mong nagagandahan. Take me back in your arms, Manila. Promise me you'll never Thank you.
Thank you very much. Truly world-class talent that we have listened to and watched the past minutes. And I hope everybody enjoyed the performances. And they have a Facebook account, the L.O.V.E Project. Please look it up and you can engage them for performances in any of your virtual meetings. I should also mention that one of our very own FINEX members, Marc Bautista, is one of the moving forces behind the L.O.V.E Project. So thank you, Marc, for helping conceive this very worthwhile project and giving our artists a venue to showcase their talent. Okay, we promised raffle right after the program, so we're ready to raffle off our 5 grazing boards. So how do we do this, Mike? Mike?
Shonda, you may want to share your screen so everyone will see the list of winners.
Okay, so we'll just read them out. You've already selected. Okay, these are all of the attendees, right?
Now.
Okay, so.
Shonda, you may draw now.
Okay, go ahead. Okay, the first is Mary Jo Bautista. The second is Marivica Nuevo. Third is Conrad Gloria. Fourth is Paul San Pedro. And the fifth is Teresa Tan. So when can they expect, Mike, to receive the grazing board? This will be delivered to their homes? Delivered to their homes. Wow, what a great way to spend the lockdown. Thank you very much, FINEX, for this raffle prizes. At this point, we need to formally close the GMM. So I'd like to call once again our president, President Jiang, to adjourn the meeting. Jiang?
Thank you very much, Malu. It was a fantastic performance, but I'd like to first of all thank our guest speakers, Bart Guingona and Marc Anthony Nicolas, for sharing their inspiring stories, perspectives, challenges, and triumphs. I believe we all agree that Filipino talent in the performing arts and entertainment is world-class, as you mentioned. But as Bart also said earlier, the industry is facing an existential threat. Our artists and entertainers need heroes, whether it be the government to support and promote the Filipino entertainment industry, or the Filipino audience themselves to patronize Philippine artistry and performances. And then perhaps the industry itself also needs to reflect on how it can innovate and reinvent itself through the use of new digital platforms and mediums without losing the elements that make us distinctly Filipino. The L.O.V.E Project is a great example of how our performing artists are continuing to thrive in the new normal. Many thanks to Menchu Lauchenko Yulo, and bravo to our guest artists, Jasmine, John, Melissa, and James, for their powerful performances. I'd also like to thank Malu, of course, for the engaging moderation, Jenny, Kaloy, Doming, Nenet, Tony Boy, the Arts Committee, and the Programs Committee, and of course, the Secretariat for making today's GMM possible. Thank you everyone for being here, and I look forward to your future participation and involvement in our events. Please continue to be heroes to those around you. Our meeting is hereby adjourned.
Thank you, everyone, and we hope to see you in our next GMM and the other FINEX activities. Have a good afternoon and stay safe.